Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a book that is probably on your shelf right now, but maybe gathering a little dust.
The dictionary.
Exactly, the dictionary. And I have to admit, I've always thought of it as this. Well, this a very utilitarian, maybe even boring object. It's just a list of words, right?
Well, that's the common misconception, and it's the perfect place to start. Because if you see it as just an inventory of words, you miss the entire point.
Okay.
Our main source today, Patrick Hanks, he argues that a dictionary isn't an inventory of language. It's an inventory of beliefs.
An inventory of beliefs. That's the line that really stuck with me. It sounds, I don't know, almost profound.
It is. Think of it as a catalog of a culture's conventions. When you open a dictionary, you're not just seeing a list of words. You're seeing how a specific society, at a specific time, decided to organize all of reality.
So it's basically a map of their worldview?
A complete map. And so today, our mission is to, decode that map. We're going to see how dictionaries have been used as political weapons, as tools for art, and even how computers are now showing us that what we think we know about words might be completely wrong.
So let's start at the beginning, because my assumption was always, A to Z. It just seems logical. But that's a pretty recent invention, isn't it?
Very recent. If we go back to the roots, to ancient China, alphabetizing wasn't even a concept. Take the area from around the 3rd century BC.
Right.
It was more like a thesaurus mixed with an encyclopedia. It grouped words by topic. All the names for fish, all the terms for mountains, things like that.
Which I guess makes sense if you're trying to understand the world. But then there was the Zhuangzi. That one organized words by their shape, right? By their radicals.
Exactly. And the why behind that is the fascinating part. It wasn't just for, easier reading. It was political. It was all based on this Confucian idea of the rectification of names.
I vaguely remember this. The idea that if you don't call things by their proper names, society just collapses.
Precisely. The belief was that social chaos starts when a ruler doesn't act like a ruler. So the dictionary wasn't just describing language, it was prescribing it. It was a tool for maintaining social order, a rule book.
That's wild. So language as a form of control? But then if you jump over to India and Persia, the whole motivation seems to flip. It's not about control, it's about creativity.
Yes, the whole vibe is different. In India, you have the kosha, which means storehouse, and these are often written in verse.
Wait, hang on. The dictionary itself was a poem.
Yes. You have to remember this was a largely oral culture. If you're a poet, you can't just, Google a synonym. You need to have this database in your head.
So they made it a poem to make it easier to memorize.
Exactly. You could literally recite the dictionary to find the words you needed. And the Persians took that even further. In the 11th century, Sadi Tusi wrote this dictionary, but he didn't sort it by the first letter.
Right.
He sorted by the last letter.
The last letter. Why would you ever do that?
Well, think about who's using it. A poet.
Oh, for rhyming.
Exactly. If you need a word that rhymes with light, you look up all the words that end in sri.
So it's a rhyming dictionary.
Yeah.
It's such a perfect example of how the tool's purpose defines its structure. It's not about one correct way to do it.
And then when we get to Europe in the Renaissance, the motivation shifts again.
Yeah.
It's all about the machine.
The printing press.
The printing press changes everything. But there's a kind of hidden hero here that no one talks about. Typography.
You mean like the fonts they use?
Yes, exactly. Before this, a lot of books were printed in this dense, heavy black letter type.
Yeah.
It's really hard to read in small sizes.
Right, you can't skim it.
And a dictionary is pure information density. If you print that in black letter, the book becomes physically enormous. But then these Venetian typographers like Nicholas Jensen, they popularized Roman type, the clean letters we use today.
And suddenly you could pack way more information onto a single page.
It made the comprehensive dictionary portable. And that leads to this great story, the story of the Calapine.
Oh, I love this. Ambrogio Calapino, the man who became a noun.
He was an Italian friar, published the Latin dictionary in 1502, but it was so well designed that other editors just started, adding to it. They'd add Italian, then French, then Spanish. One edition had 11 languages in it.
It was like the 16th century Wikipedia.
It totally was, and it got so famous that the word Calapin just came to mean a dictionary or a notebook. But there was another guy around then, Robert Estienne, who did something I think even more fundamental.
Estienne. He's the one who realized words don't exist in a vacuum.
Correct. He understood that meaning isn't just in the word itself, it's in the phraseology, how words combine with other words. He was the first to really record idioms and common phrases.
That seems incredibly modern. But as these books got bigger and more popular, this this huge fight started to brew, right? The battle for the soul of language.
Yes. The fixers versus the describers. On one side, you have the big national academies in France, Italy, Spain, and their goal was to fix the language, to purify it.
To freeze it in time, basically.
Right. And they had this core belief that a word's true meaning is locked in its origin and its etymology.
Which sounds good in theory, but it falls apart almost instantly.
Instantly. The example from the reading was the word subject. It comes from Latin for thrown under. But when you say my favorite subject is history, you don't mean that at all. Language drifts.
And the academies hated that drift.
They wanted to stop it. And then, in 1755, Samuel Johnson comes along. And the funny thing is, he started out on their side.
He wanted to fix English, too.
He did. He wanted to protect it from decay.
Yeah.
But as he actually did the work, over all those years, he had this huge realization. He saw that trying to stop language from changing is. His phrase was like trying to enchain syllables.
What a great image. It's totally futile.
Completely. And so he pivoted. He became the first great descriptive lexicographer. He decided his job wasn't to say how words should be used, but to record how they are used.
Which is a fundamental shift. But even on the describers, there's a split. You've got the historical method, like the OED, versus the modern, what was the term?
The synchronic method.
Synchronic, right.
It just means looking at the language as it exists at one point in time right now.
Yeah.
The Oxford English Dictionary, the OED, is historical. Gives you the full biography of a word.
The example of camera made this so clear for me.
It's the perfect test case. You look up camera in the OED, and the first definition is a vaulted room, because that's the original Latin meaning.
So if you're a language learner, you're totally lost. You have to read through centuries of definitions to get to the thing you take pictures with.
Exactly. But a synchronic dictionary, pioneered by guys like Clarence Barnhart, just flips it. He said, look, people want the most common meaning first. It seems obvious now, but it was radical then.
It turned the dictionary from a history book into more of a user's manual.
But even users' manuals can go wrong, especially when they try to be too scientific.
Oh, we have to talk about the sugar disaster. This was my favorite part.
Merriam-Webster's third, from 1961, they went all in on scientific precision. The definition of sugar. Do you have it?
I do. Get this. A sweet, crystallizable substance that consists entirely or essentially of sucrose. And it just goes on and on about aqueous extracts.
It's a chemistry textbook entry. It's totally impenetrable for a normal person.
But the best part, the absolute best part, is that it calls sugar a condiment.
Which is, I mean, technically true, I guess.
But no one on earth has ever said, could you pass the condiment for my coffee?
One lump of condiment or two. It's a classic case of confusing the scientific concept of a thing with the actual meaning of the word people use.
Which brings us to today. Because now we don't have to guess. We have computers, we have corpus linguistics.
This is probably the biggest revolution since the printing press. Instead of just relying on intuition, we feed billions of words of real text from books, websites, newspapers into a computer. This collection of text is a corpus.
And the computer just analyzes the patterns. And what it finds is, honestly, kind of spooky.
It is. It reveals things about language that are invisible to us. The example Hanks uses is the word gleam.
As in a gleam in his eye.
Right. And if I asked you what that means, you'd probably say it's about happiness or hope, maybe a little mischief.
Sure. It sounds positive, like a twinkle.
That's our intuition. But when they ran the corpus analysis, the computer found that the word gleam almost always appears next to a very specific set of words.
Let me guess. Not happy.
Not at all. Malicious, wicked, sardonic, cruel.
Whoa. So a gleam is actually evil.
In common usage, it almost always signals some kind of predatory or negative intent. Our brains just don't pick up on that statistical pattern, but the computer sees it instantly.
That's incredible. It's like it's psychoanalyzing our collective subconscious. It shows you can't just impose a neat logical structure on language. It's messy.
Which people have been trying to do for centuries. There was this guy in the 17th century, John Wilkins. He tried to create the ultimate logical dictionary by classifying everything in the universe.
This is the guy with the dogs, right?
Yeah, he put dogs and cats together as rapacious beasts.
Huh.
Okay, fair. But then he separated dogs from wolves.
Why? They're practically the same animal.
Because wolves howl and dogs bark. To him, that was a fundamental categorical difference. But the absolute best one is where he put seals.
I'm afraid to ask.
Under dog kind.
Seals are dogs, of course.
Specifically, amphibious beasts of the dog kind. It sounds absurd, but It's what happens when you try to force the beautiful chaos of the real world into a rigid system. It just doesn't work.
So we have these amazing new tools like corpus linguistics. We understand how language works better than ever.
Yeah.
But the dictionary itself feels like it's in a crisis.
It is. It's the paradox of the internet. A great dictionary costs millions of dollars and decades of expert work to create. But we've all been trained to believe that information should be free.
I just type define gleam into a search bar and get an answer instantly. I don't pay for it.
And that completely destroys the business model. So we're seeing this massive defunding of lexicography right when the tools are getting interesting. We might actually be losing the map makers.
That's a really sobering thought. Before we go, though, I want to end on one last idea from the readings that, well, that kind of broke my brain. The circularity paradox.
Ah, yes. It's a real mind bender. The idea is that every single word in a dictionary is defined by other words.
Right. You look up happy, it says joyful. You look up joyful, it'll probably point you back to happy.
Or you look up spiral, it says a helix. You look up helix, it says a spiral.
So if you follow the trail long enough, what happens?
You never get out. There's no bedrock. There's no objective reality at the bottom of a dictionary. It's a completely closed loop of symbols pointing to other symbols.
Language is just a self-referential web that we're all caught in.
Exactly. The dictionary doesn't give you truth. It gives you consensus. It shows you that language is basically a shared hallucination, but it's one that works.
On that note, I think we'll leave it there. I'd encourage you to go pull that old dictionary off the shelf, look up a word, and see if you can see the politics or the poetry hiding in plain sight. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.